We had an on again, off again relationship that turned into a marriage where he left often. And he used to tell me all the time, "You are so mean."
Caitlin couldn't understand why things between her husband and her seemed so broken.
I remember yelling at him in fights. "Well, I do all your laundry and I do all your cooking and everything." And he even told me, "I don't want that. I don't want that anymore."
Desperate for answers, she turned to marriage counseling, hoping it would finally fix things.
After a screaming match in the middle of counseling, he told me, "I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore." And all I could hear was, "I don't care about our relationship. I'm not going to try anymore." Because I thought, well, we've tried everything. Like, if marriage counseling isn't working, what is going to work?
Caitlin was devastated until a coworker reached out.
And she's like, "Look, I don't want to overstep, but I read this book, The Empowered Wife by Laura Doyle, and it really helped me."
At that moment, Caitlin was willing to try anything.
"Well, you left. You did the bad thing. You were wrong."
Yeah.
And so this kind of, when I started reading the book, it was like, well, usually you get to that point because of something that happened way before that.
And what she learned transformed everything.
This is the marriage that I always dreamed about. Just like he said, I didn't know we could ever be this happy. I didn't know we could ever reach this place.
Caitlin, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here, and I can't wait to hear your story.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I always love to hear what was going wrong in the bad old days. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. We had an on again, off again relationship that turned into a marriage where he left often. And he used to tell me all the time, "You are so mean." And I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, "What do you mean I'm so mean?" And he told me that I was so controlling. And I felt like after we had kids, my entire life was controlled by him and our kids. I had no life anymore. I was like, how on earth can you say I'm controlling? My entire life is being controlled by you guys. I have no life. And it got to a point. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in our relationship. I wondered, did I marry the wrong man? You ask this question all the time. Did I marry the wrong man? And it really got to that point. Did I marry the wrong man? But I always really loved him. And I think I knew deep that no, I didn't. And definitely after reading your book, I knew for sure I didn't.
And so, I mean, it's hard to hear if someone's saying you're mean, your husband's saying you're mean, especially when you're doing everything for the kids and for him probably, and you felt like you had no life. How did you respond when he was throwing words like you're mean?
I exploded. I felt like I did everything for us. I handled everything. I took care of everything. When we got married, he came with a very young daughter. I met her. She was just turning 5 at the time. And I did everything for her. And then we had 2 children and I did everything for them and I did everything for him. And I remember yelling at him in fights. "Well, I do all your laundry and I do all your cooking and everything." And he even told me, "I don't want that. I don't want that anymore." And I said, "Well, who's going to do it then? Because you're not going to do it." And so, I mean, we would have screaming fights about this. And I was so resentful. And I remember our marriage counselors saying, "You sound very resentful. You sound very angry." And I was very resentful and very angry.
Like, no kidding. Right? Yeah. 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 Of course. Who wouldn't be resentful and angry? And so he didn't appreciate all that you were doing at all.
No, and it always ended. We would have these giant blow-ups screaming at each other. I mean, one time it was over him not picking up the dog poop in the backyard. One time it was over honey got on chicken nuggets and I said my daughter wouldn't eat them. I mean, these giant blow-ups where he would pack his bags and leave over
Gosh.
dog poop in the backyard. Like nothing.
Oh my gosh. So all right, he'd leave the house like we're separated kind of thing, or like did he tell you where he was going, or?
Nope. And it was usually, sometimes he would actually get out the door and go. Sometimes he wouldn't. Most of the time he did, though. Even when we were dating, there were several times that he left and we broke up for periods of time. I think there was 2 weeks one time, a month another time. The one time we thought, for sure this is it. But then COVID hit and we wound up back together. Yeah. And so it's just a myriad. And like his younger daughter, actually, poor child, lived through the years of pack your stuff, we're leaving. Cause it seems like there was always so much pressure anytime she was around that we fought. And so she saw that fighting and she always had to pack her bags to leave. She was always tears. I mean, obviously she's a child of divorce. So her, to her, this was like reliving the nightmare over and over and over again. It was just an awful situation.
Oh, it sounds awful. And it sounds, that's quite scary for you to have him threatening to leave. But it also sounds like maybe you stopped believing it in a way because it
I
was happening so much. Is that right?
I
Or
did. And I told him, I said, I don't know how to respond to you. I said, if I don't do anything, if I just act like it's not happening, you leave. I said, if I blow up at you, you leave. I said, I don't know how to respond to you. And we had this fight over and over and over again. And I kept telling him, I said, we just don't fight well. I said, I don't know how to do this with you. Like, we keep having the same fight over and over and over again. Like, how do we get better at this? How do we stop having the same fight?
so you guys went to marriage counseling,
We
obviously.
did.
Okay.
After I was pregnant with my son, he was still like 4 months out, and my daughter was like a year and a half old. And my husband left. I actually remember it was on April Fool's Day because it was serious enough that time that I actually told my boss that he had left, and she didn't believe me. She thought I was joking because it was April Fool's Day. And I was not joking. But when we talked, I was like, this isn't working. Like, it isn't working. We need to go to marriage counseling. Like, this just isn't working. And I think he felt so strongly also like this isn't working that he thought at this point, like, let's try it. It's worth a shot. Whatever it could do to help, which is ironic because actually in my first marriage, I had gone to marriage counseling as well. And clearly that worked out well for me because I'm divorced from that marriage. So I don't know why I thought it would work a second time.
Everyone knows if you're fighting a lot and your marriage isn't working, you're supposed to go to marriage counseling, right? That's the thing to
Right.
do. So, and I mean, it's kind of fun. We're laughing a little bit about this, but actually, like, you're pregnant with a toddler and he's leaving. Like, that's heartbreaking. This
It
is,
was it was devastating. And I knew like we needed to do something. Like we were having a second baby and we had a toddler. Like we had to do something. So the only thing I thought was, well, marriage counseling. We need to do marriage counseling. And it
and
worked great for a little bit. Everybody wants to try and make things better. Everybody wants to try and fix things. So you're just so eager to try and fix things. But then we started fighting in marriage counseling, and she wanted to try and balance the household load because I was clearly very resentful about everything that I had to do. And it was very clear I was resentful. So she's like, well, let's fix it. We'll just balance the load. And I remember her telling him, well, you need to hand wash the dishes now. Like she'll do the dishwasher because I didn't want him to touch my dishwasher, but you need to hand wash the dishes. Let me
okay.
tell you, her telling him to hand wash the dishes made him stop washing the dishes.
Oh my gosh.
He was
Oh my gosh.
very opposed to being told what to do, did not appreciate it, definitely did not improve our marriage.
Well, but were you also kind of thinking like, see, if he won't even listen to the marriage counselor, like, she told him to do these dishes, like that kind of proves he's the problem, right?
Exactly. I mean, I thought, here we are. We've talked about that we need to, um, we need to fix things and we need to balance the load. And obviously, I'm doing too much. And here you are, you can't even do that. So I definitely felt like she's telling him he's the problem and he can't fix it. And so that just made me angrier and angrier.
Yeah. And I know, that can make you feel hopeless when marriage counseling isn't working. It's like, what else are you going to do? How else are you going to fix this?
Well, and after a screaming match in the middle of counseling, he told me, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And all I could hear was, I don't care about our relationship. I'm
Yeah.
not going to try anymore. Cause I thought, well, we've tried everything. Like if marriage counseling isn't working, what is going to work?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So this is a very scary moment. I mean, and you're already thinking we can't go on like this with all so the separations were kind of happening on the regular. How long would he be gone when you were
The
sep-
longest up to the end was, well, he was gone for a night when I was pregnant. He was gone for one night and then came back. And then when my son was 10 days old, he threatened to leave again. I had just had a second C-section. And it got to the point I actually had to call my mom because I had just had a second C-section. I was 10 days postpartum and I had a toddler and a baby
Oh
that
my
I couldn't
gosh.
drive, and he had threatened to leave again. He didn't leave that time, thankfully. But we just kept going until I think right before my daughter's third birthday. So last October, we had the blow up over the chicken nuggets, and he left, and I was done. I wasn't fighting for him anymore. I got to the point you just start thinking, how much of this can I deal with? How much of this can I put up with? I'm done. I actually had talked to some friends about, like, what do I need to do? What's the path forward? But I very quickly realized that I really loved him and I missed him.
Really?
And I was really sad. I was like, but I don't want this to be over.
Wow. See, so there's a lot of hurt and a lot of fear, but you got in touch with underneath that. This is this is the man you love.
And I actually called him and I was like, look, do I need to hire a lawyer? Like, what are we, what's going on? And he's like, well, I'm not hiring a lawyer yet. And I was like, okay, if you're not hiring a lawyer, I'm not hiring a lawyer. And it was kind of over several days. So I think he left on Saturday. I think he came home on Wednesday. But over those like several days, we kind of talked about, like, at first it was very much, this isn't working. And that's kind of where it got to the point of, like, do we need to hire lawyers? What do we need to do? But then, like, the more we talked, it was like, as the days went on, and there was a lot of not talking in there too, which was really sad because he was my partner and he was the person I talked to. And so I think by about Tuesday or Wednesday, I said to him, like, well, when are you coming home? And he said, well, I can come home. And I said, yes, you can come home. So,
He thought he was banished. He thought you didn't want him to come home.
right. And in the midst of this, I mean, I was devastated. And at work, I had mentioned to some of the moms at work, I actually kind of started to cry and said, like, my husband's left. And a coworker of mine actually sent me a message and she's like, look, I don't want to overstep, but I read this book, The Empowered Wife by Laura Doyle, and it really helped me. So, if you don't think it's for you, by all means, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Oh, oh my gosh. And you were open.
I mean, at that point, I was like anything to make this better. I mean, I knew I loved him. I knew deep down I wanted to be with him. We just couldn't keep this cycle going. Something had to break the cycle.
Too exhausting, right? Too hurtful. And
It was, we couldn't get to this point. We just couldn't get to that point.
yeah, wow. Okay, so what happened? You get this email.
So I actually I'd bought the book and started reading the book before he even got home. And we actually started talking about it pretty early on. I didn't like tell him all the details, but we kind of started talking about it pretty early on. And he was like fascinated to hear some of the stuff, like just in the way that I didn't see when I said these things to him, how disrespectful it was. And he's like, well, I was telling you. I said, I know, but I didn't understand what that meant. I said, when someone says, when you say this is what they hear, that's a whole different story. So
Wow.
he,
So, Caitlin, that's very vulnerable of you, right? Because I mean, I could just imagine you're probably still pretty mad and hurt and defensive at that point.
by the time the few days had passed, I was really more just sad. I just didn't like, at this point, I realized like, yes, we had been through so much and it was very hurtful. But after like the days had passed, more than anything, I just realized like, I don't want to raise two kids on my own. I don't want my kids to be the product of divorce. Like I saw what his daughter went through. I saw how difficult it was for her. And still to this day, I mean, she has to decide between going to dad's house and a birthday party, you know, and it's just, it's a very difficult life. And I just thought, I don't want this for my kids. I don't want this for me. I mean, I really loved him. I didn't want it to be over. Like, why would I give up when most of him is such a great guy? I just can't deal with this crazy cycle.
Wow. So, I mean, this sounds kind of that's such an extraordinary reaction. I feel like to say like, oh, I see where I was saying things that were hurtful, right? Instead of like, do you see where you were saying things that were hurtful to him? That's not what you were. So how did you do that? How did you get to this
Well,
place?
our fights always, because he always left, it always turned to, it was never about what I had said or done. It was always about, well, you left, you did the bad thing, you were wrong.
Yeah.
And so this kind of, when I started reading the book, it was like, well, usually you get to that point because of something that happened way before that.
Oh,
So that made me really start looking back and saying like, okay, well, when I told him, hey, you know, you picked up one piece of poop from the dog in the backyard, what about the rest of the backyard? How disrespectful was that? No wonder he blew up at me. You know, he had gone to buy us lunch. I had been kind of in a mood the whole time. Then, like, some honey got on the chicken nuggets. I'm like, well, she's not going to eat this. Like, he had gone through the effort to try and make an effort all morning. And I had just tossed it right out the window in disrespect and attitude.
wow. Okay. So you went back and looked at those two big blowups and said to yourself, "Oh, what did I do to contribute to this situation?"
Yes. And I had always been raised in a family, was raised in a family where disrespect was just a thing. I mean, we grew up, you know, my dad was just, oh, there's just dad. And it was just such a big thing. And so that it was ingrained in me. And that was just normal to me.
Yeah,
So,
this is the training you got.
yes. So getting that, reading the book and then seeing like, oh, this is what, I mean, just in the first few chapters, hearing the stories about this is what they're hearing when you're saying these things. This is how they're responding. I mean, it was textbook what my situation was. It was exactly, he was responding exactly to what I was saying.
Wow. Okay, well, let's go back to like with the situation with the dog poop in the backyard, though, right? So he was picking up some dog poop, and you were like, well, what about the rest of it? But I mean, you kind of do need all the poop picked up from the backyard, right? So,
I do, but do I? Really? Like, if I really wanted it done, I'd go do it myself.
well,
And
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
and realistically, like, okay, what he did was pick it up in the one area the kid was running back and forth. So like he was trying to make sure that my daughter didn't step in it. Yeah, would have been great if he had done it all, but if I really wanted that, I could have expressed it in a much better way rather than, hey, why don't you pick up the rest of this?
Gotcha. Okay. So, and then with the honey on the chicken nugget, like it doesn't sound that bad for you to say like, oh, she's not going to eat that now.
It was the way I said it, and it was the way I was acting at the time. I was already in a mood, and my biggest issue was I never took care of myself. I didn't get enough sleep. I had two little kids. Like I always took care of him. I always took care of the kids. I always put everyone else before myself. And so I was always run down and tired and in a bad mood. I remember him telling me at some point, like, you're such a tomboy, which is so funny because I'm kind of quite the opposite of a tomboy. But then like, that I was always in a bad mood. I was always tired. I was always all these things. I was like, yeah, I have two toddlers. Like, what do you expect? Of course I'm always tired. Of course I'm never like getting dressed up. Like, what do you expect? And it was just like this expectation on me when I'm doing so much already. And I just like, I never took care of myself. So I was just always in a mood and always in a bad place. And it put him at a higher level that it's the little things that would just set him off because he was already operating, dealing with. I remember him saying, well, how much of this am I supposed to put up with before I blow up? And it was because it was like he'd come in and I'd have some comment for him right in the door. He'd call me and I'd be like, well, I haven't heard from you all day. And it was just, I mean, I read the book and it was example after example after example of all the things I was doing wrong.
So you were busted when you read that book. You're like, oh no.
It was, I mean, he didn't want to come home because he got men at the door with, here, take your kids. And I'm so over all of this. And I was in a bad mood. They're in a bad mood. Everybody's run down. Everybody's tired. And I'm always just throwing stuff at him. And it wasn't even about the specific things that were happening at the end. It was just, he was so tired of putting up with the constant disrespect that he was done.
Yeah. And he couldn't succeed in making you happy, it sounds like.
Oh, he told me that all the time. He told me all the time, it doesn't matter what I do, you'll never be happy.
Oof. Okay.
Yes. I felt like the bar was pretty low. I was like, that's not true.
Just don't put the honey on the chicken nugget. Okay. Right.
No kidding. But he told me all the time, he said, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm never going to make you happy.
Ouch. Like that sounds like
Yes.
I'm ouch. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you get the book and you guys are discussing it and he's fascinated and you are, what do you start doing differently than first?
The very first thing I did was self-care. I just started putting my self-care first. And actually, when I first read it, I thought, oh, this is goofy.
Yeah.
But I really thought about it. And I started doing what I started writing down was the 3 things a day that you ask for. And I just picked little things. Like I have 2 toddlers, little things like I'd go and get a Starbucks or like I really like having a Topo Chico in a wine glass. It's just something I really like to do. Doesn't really take any time. Doesn't really like require anything, but it's something that I really enjoy. So I just started writing down like the 3 things that I was going to do every day. And sometimes they were things that I was already doing, but writing them down made me acknowledge that I was actually doing something for myself and recognizing that I was taking care of myself and that I was doing things. And then when I needed things, recognizing what I needed and doing that. I started just going in on the weekends, going in and laying down to take a nap because I needed a nap. My husband at first responded with, the kids are in there jumping around. I think one day I got whacked in the head with a toy. Like stuff happens. But now when I go in to lay down and take a nap, he tells the kids, come on out and shuts the door and makes sure like I have my quiet time to nap.
It's all about Caitlin getting her nap now. But so not at first though. At first
It was and actually my mom and I talked about this the one day and I said, I get naps on the weekends now. And she was like, well, if I had tried to nap, the kids would have been in there. I said, oh, they were in there at first. I said, they were in there. They were on the bed. They were playing with toys. They were making noise, but I just stuck with it. And then my husband quickly realized like, oh, when she actually gets a nap, she's a decent human being. Maybe I should let her get a nap.
it was in his best interest to take those kids out of that room so you can
Yes.
Okay, cool. So he responded to this well. And we do at first you were saying like at first I thought self-care like this is kind of what'd you say silly or something, right? Like
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, I initially thought I was like, well, I don't have time for this. I think you even said for the working moms, they're like, well, can I just get 3 in a week?
Yeah.
And it was really when I started to focus on like, it doesn't have to be big things. Like it can just be something little and simple, just that I acknowledge that I do for myself. Because I found like my biggest issue was I was just truly an unhappy person. And that had nothing to do with my husband. That was just me. I was just really unhappy. I was tired of taking care of everyone else. I was tired of not being able to. I used to work out all the time. I used to do all of these things before I had kids. I had so much time in the world. And then I got married. I took on a stepdaughter. I had 2 kids. I lost my life and everything became about everyone else. And I was so unhappy in that situation. And it was making everyone around me absolutely miserable.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big change in the atmosphere at your home because now do you start feeling happier? Is it enough to get naps on the weekend and
It
to,
is. Once I started acknowledging, then it was things like, okay, I want to take a bath. And I used to be so resentful when he wanted to go to his daughter's softball games. She lives a few hours from here. So he would be gone all evening and I would have the kids and I would be so resentful of the fact that I had to take care of the kids by myself. Well, I started putting the kids to bed early and going to take a bath.
opposite?
Yeah, I would order food in and I would watch whatever I wanted on the TV. Now, when he wants to go to the softball games, I'm like, great, a night for myself. He's like, I don't know if I should be happy about this or not.
This is great. But so then he'd come home and you're happy though. So,
Right. And it was just a total change. Before, I remember him even telling me at times, he's like, well, I'm afraid to ask you if I can go to these things because he knew I would respond in a negative way. Even if I told him yes, he was going to pay for it.
mm,
So now he's like, I get to go and do these things. I come home, you're in a great mood. He's like, this is fantastic.
he won the wife lottery because yeah, he can do it. He has autonomy.
Yes. Yeah. And he really feels like it's stuff now. Like he'll ask me, like, can I go golfing? I'll say, yeah, sure. Go ahead. He's just blown away. Can I go fishing? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Now he just gets frustrated. He's like, well, are you going to come with us? I'm sorry. I can't.
Oh, he wants you to come
Yes.
fishing.
And,
Oh,
there are times it will be doable, but right now with the little ones, fishing is not in the cards for us.
right, right. So now he's wanting your company more. It sounds like.
Far more. So I complained all the time about the fact that he never called me. He used to call me when our relationship started. He called me all the time. And then he stopped calling me. And I was like, you never call me anymore. And so, of course, that's a great way to get him to call me and complain to him about how he never calls me anymore. And he leaves very early for work and he would get home like as late as possible, never spend time with the kids, never be around. Then he was running off to all these other events. And so he was never around. And I felt like, man, he's just like avoiding us altogether. Well, fast forward to today, he calls me so many times a day. I actually had to tell him earlier. He called me earlier and I said, remember, I have this interview today, so please don't call me while I'm in the interview. And he said, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, so cute. Can't get enough of you.
He calls me multiple times a day now. He was joking the other day. He goes, I have been late to work so much. I was like, they're going to say something at some point, which is not true. He's doing so well at work. He has other companies poaching him right now. But yeah, he tells me, well, I'm getting late to work every day. He started getting home like half an hour to an hour earlier every day. He leaves the office early. So he just can't wait to like be home and be with us. He actually took off on Monday. We went and did a little staycation together. And yeah, he's around all the time now.
Wow. Okay, so you're irresistible to him now. You feel desired.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We have way more physical intimacy than we did before.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, our relationship has taken a complete 180. I mean, he even told me, he goes, I didn't know we could be this happy. He said, I
Oh,
didn't even know this was possible.
oh my gosh. Okay, so and this is so I want to hear how you got here more too. Like so you did self-care, which is huge, and you became happy. Is a big deal. What else
Yes.
did you do differently from the battle days when you were fighting about the chicken nugget?
I stopped giving my opinion on everything. I thought my opinion was gold. He
Yeah.
needed my opinion on everything. He didn't know how to do anything himself. Like I needed to handle it all. So my opinion was important in everything he did when it came to work, his ex-wife, his kids, everything. I was the end all be all. I think I told him for years that not in so many words, but I basically told him, you don't know how to be a dad. I'm a better parent. I'm just going to handle everything, was the message I was communicating to him. So I stopped giving my opinion on things. I stopped interfering in our kids' relationship with him and stayed out of it. He called me one day and said, well, I'm thinking about trading in my truck for a new truck. He does drive a lot of miles, but the truck is relatively new. And in my head, I'm thinking, seriously, already? I said, whatever you think, honey. And a little while later, he said to me, I just don't really think now's the right time. I think, we can talk about it later, but I just don't think now's the right time. I was like, yes, hallelujah. I was like, I didn't have to be the bad guy and tell him no. He came to it all on his own.
He came to that conclusion himself. You just let him decide.
Yeah.
Respected his thinking. Didn't try to
And
control it.
right. And with my stepdaughter, her mom the one day had texted and said, I have to pick her up at this time. And it looked like he was going to miss a church event with my children and I. And I was so upset. And, I had all the opinions in the world, but I just stayed out of it. It's not my business. I stayed out of it. And he actually came up with a solution. He got his time with her and he got her home while my children were asleep and made it back in time for the church event.
Oh my gosh. So, and this is the result of you just not saying your opinion.
Right. His plan, I never would have come up with. It had never even occurred to me, but he came up with it on his own and he didn't miss anything. It was fantastic. He came up with a better idea than I would have.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And so, but wasn't it scary? Isn't it kind of hard to not say, like, you were disappointed he was going to miss that event?
It's very hard not to say.
Yeah.
And there are times that I do say, but I found that when I give my opinion, it negatively impacts our relationship immediately. Like I can see the impacts right away. If I give him an opinion, he actually said to me the other day, I fully wanted him to make this decision on his own. And I thought I thought I had given him the space to do that and was just agreeing with him. But he said to me, well, since you like to tell me what to do about my job. And I was like, oh, I really did not mean to do that. I was like, I swear, like, whatever choice you make, I believe in you. Like, I trust you. I know you will make the right choice. I said, I was giving my opinion and he didn't need my opinion.
So he kind of calls you out on it. And then you take that as you didn't get upset about that. You could have been.
We're in such a better place now that both of us take things a little bit better. I mean,
Okay.
there have been times he'll tell me like, well, I love my wife who always tells me what to do. And that kind of checks me like, what a sweet way to put it, right? Like, I love my wife who always tells me what to do. And that kind of is like, oh, yikes. Okay. So I haven't been practicing the skills very well. Need to back up.
And do you ever feel like, okay, like this is making me kind of a doormat if I can't say my opinion? Like, do you ever feel that way?
I don't think I got to that point. It did get to a point when I was doing the skills. Actually, I think the weekend before I had a coaching session, I got to the point of, I'm so tired of this. This is so much work. Like, I'm tired of practicing the skills. This is too much work. I'm just frustrated. I'm done. And I actually went into that coaching session. I had planned to go into that coaching session with a completely different topic. I don't even remember what it was, but I went in and said, I'm just so frustrated. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of this. And it was Coach Shani. She said to me, okay, where does that leave you? I kind of thought about it for a minute and I was like, well, miserable and arguing and probably alone ultimately. She said, okay, so let's talk about this.
Caitlin, you're so accountable. That's an amazing response. Like you went right there. And what was tiring about the skills, like about having to do it? Like what was kind of getting you down about it?
I felt like I was just doing one more thing to try and improve our relationship. I felt like I had done so much to try and fix our relationship and the marriage counseling and everything. And I had just tried so hard. And I was like, man, another thing I have to do. And after having that coaching session, I started to realize like the skills are not for my marriage. The skills are for me. They make me a happier person. When I actually do these things and I follow through on these things, I'm a happier person. My marriage is so much happier. My children are so much happier. Like my life is just a better situation than it was when I am mean and angry and disgruntled.
Wow. So you have a lot of power, it sounds like, to affect your whole family, depending on whether you're feeling happy or not.
My attitude definitely impacts the whole household. I mean, the kids are little, so with them, it's maybe less so, but there's definitely, I mean, for sure with my husband and my stepdaughter, like if I'm in a bad mood, everybody's on edge, everybody's walking on eggshells, everybody's worried about what they're going to say and how I'm going to set them off. And it just creates a very toxic household.
Gosh, gotcha. Well, yeah, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy, right?
Right.
You're not the only one. So, but so you have kind of learned to, it's sort of like with Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility in a way. And it did feel like responsibility. It felt a little bit like pressure when you got with Coach Shani. Like you're like, I want this to stop. I want to feel less pressured to be responsible for all this. But you ended up deciding, actually, I want to make myself happy and have the rest of the house be happy too.
And that was exactly it. Like if I wanted, I kept saying I wanted to fix the problem, right? I didn't want to be miserable. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be fighting. I just wanted to fix the problem. Well, the
Yeah.
way to fix the problem was to just be a decent person.
Well, it's harder than it sounds sometimes. So, and kind of maddening, like what was he doing to fix the relationship?
Well, what was so funny is actually when we had started talking about the book and I had started, implementing the skills and he didn't know, necessarily exactly what the skills were, but he knew there was a drastic shift in our relationship. He was like, you are a different person. This is fantastic. Like, this is just, you've done so much for our relationship. He actually asked, he said, is there a book that I can read? And he was wondering if there was like a husband companion book.
Oh
Because
my God.
he noticed such a change. He's like, well, I want to help too. I want to do it too.
Oh my gosh. That must have melted you.
It
Well,
did.
a couple of things too. And he's really acknowledging you. He's like, okay, Caitlin, I see you did something big and I love it. So you must have felt amazing.
It was fantastic. And then like stuff around the house, he just started like, he comes home every day and vacuums our house. We have a dog that sheds like crazy. And so there's always hair. And like every day when he gets home, he vacuums the house. I don't know when the last time I picked up the vacuum was.
Wow.
And he helps out so much with the kids now. And it's like, he'll just like step in. He used to tell me, well, tell me what you want help with. But my biggest thing was, well, I can't always, because of course, I didn't know what my desires were. I don't know what to tell you. I just need you to just do it. He was just supposed to be a mind reader and know what he needed to do. But he started just stepping in and doing stuff with the kids and taking the kids to do things and taking the kids out of the room so I could nap and vacuuming the house and saying, I'll cook dinner tonight, or don't worry about dinner. Why don't we order it? Or, hey, do you need to send the laundry out so you don't have to do this extra load? Or just helping out with so much around the house, which was
Well, yeah,
shocking.
that is shocking. How did you get him to do that?
I didn't do anything. Actually, I didn't even ask him or anything. It was just once I started being so decent, he just wanted to help where he could. He saw how much I was doing and he's like, well, you just have done so much. Like I should do so much too.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm flashing back to the marriage counselor where she told him to hand wash the dishes and he wouldn't. Is it the same guy we're talking about?
Yeah, who now often does the hand wash dishes.
He often does it. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and
I want to
it
know how. Like how did this happen?
and it like if there's something I want, like I can express my desires to him and say like, "Hey, I'd really like to do this." And just yesterday, we got an invite to a birthday party. And I said, "Hey, I'd really like to go to this birthday party with the kids. If you want to come, you can. If you don't, no problem." And at first he told me, okay, yeah, you guys can go. And I said, okay, well, I told her I wasn't sure if it was going to be a 3 or 5. I'll let her know 3. And he goes, wait, 5? And I said, yeah, we have Sadie that weekend. He goes, oh, I'm going to have to go. I was like, okay, I'll go. And so I let her know. I was like, okay, well, it's actually going to be 5 of us. We're all going to be there. But yeah, and I was fine if he didn't want to go, but I really wanted to go. And in the past, there was always kind of this, we weren't ever allowed to do anything unless we were together. It was this whole battle of like, he was never allowed to do anything. I was never allowed to do anything. And so, like, in the past, they would have been nervous or like afraid to ask him, like, can I go to this? Because I would have been afraid the answer would have been like, no, or I don't want to, or something like that. And now it's like, hey, I want to take the kids to this, any concerns? And he's like, oh, yeah, no problem. And yeah, I guess I'm going to have to come, even though it's
Okay.
something he really doesn't want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I love this. So instead of it being like we have to do everything as a unit, like everyone gets to do, like he gets to go to golf or fishing and you get to take the kids to the birthday party independently. And it doesn't have to, so there's less fear and nervousness around these decisions.
Yes, it used
Yeah.
to create a lot of anxiety for like, I think either of us, because not too terribly long ago, he asked me, hey, for work, I got invited to go to this Rangers game in Dallas. Can I go? I was like, yeah, of course. Sounds great. I'm jealous. I wish I could go. And he was floored. He's like, I'm so surprised that you were just like, okay with this. And I was like, well, clearly I haven't been practicing the skills very well recently if you're surprised.
Oh my gosh, you are so accountable. This is amazing. Like that's your reaction. You don't say like, hey, ouch. Like I let you do things. You kind
I
of,
just, I see the response in our marriage so quickly. When I practice the skills, it's so different. And when I start to slip on the skills, I can immediately start to see the change in the household. Like we start to pick at each other more. There's less physical intimacy. There's less compliments. There's less gifts. It's just all of a sudden things start to slip. And that's when I kind of have to take a look at myself like, why are things changing all of a sudden?
and it's you. He's not the problem. Your husband's not the problem.
Yes, but it makes him more accountable too. Because we had an argument, I think, last week, which in the past would have turned into a total blow up. He would have left. It would have been a whole thing, which it didn't. It just blew by. And he came back to me the next day and he said, I'm really sorry for this. He said, I did not handle this well. I should have handled it differently. I'm really sorry.
Oh my gosh. Now so he's very accountable. Was that happening? Did he apologize in the past?
Definitely not. I mean,
No.
he used to say to me, he would say, I'm always the one who has to apologize. If I got an apology, it was a half-hearted, oh, I'm sorry for doing that or whatever. Not in it. I felt like he never apologized. He felt
This
like
is
he
different.
apologized all the
This is
time.
different.
Yes. Yeah. Now I learned that duct tape was my best friend.
Oh, tell me about that.
I actually remember one day we had an argument and I wanted to because I can just keep going and keep going. And he'll tell me, you just want to push me till I explode, don't you? And I was like, I'm not pushing you till you explode. I'm just telling you how it is, and just throwing insult after him. And the one day I had gone into the room and I was laying there in bed, just playing it over in my mind. And I was ready to come out here and open the door and throw something else at him. And I stood there and thought through, like, what is this going to help? If I open this door and I do this right now, it's just going to cause a bigger fight. I really need to not do this if I'm really serious about not making things worse. I went back to the bed, fell asleep. Next day, everything kind of passed and we talked about it. I believe he even apologized for that situation. But it was like, if I had come out here and yelled at him, it would have been a whole blow up where he would have left. Instead, what I was going to say to him wasn't anything that was going to change the situation. Like telling him he's not doing something the way I like it is not going to get him to change his behavior.
No. That's true. Yeah, it's not I'm my experience either.
Yeah.
So but you were pretty worked up. Like this was an emotional moment, but you somehow had the self-control to just not say anything.
I went back and read my book because I thought if I go out there right now, I was like, it's not going to end well. But I had always perpetuated this pattern. But I learned when I stayed quiet, he couldn't, our battles became a back and forth of you did, you did, you did, you did. I found like, I'm not great with ouch. It's just one, I miss the moment and I'm not great with ouch. But I found that if I'm just quiet, he has to reflect back on what he said because he has nothing to reflect on that I've done. So that was kind of the first step for me was like after we'd had the fight, like not going out the door and yelling at him about something else. But now, like when he says things that are ouch, I still miss the ouch moment. But if I'm just quiet, he has to kind of sit in that. And then he kind of comes back and is like, well, I shouldn't have said that. That wasn't very nice. I'm like, thank you.
Oh my gosh. You must feel so, I mean, smug is the word. I mean, I love that, right? Because, right? It's like, that's a superpower. You just stayed quiet and then he apologizes like he's accountable for it. Like, it's just as powerful as ouch, it sounds like.
And my mom and I have talked about this and she goes, well, isn't it just sweeping it under the rug? And I told her, I said, no, I'm not sweeping it under the rug. I'm not saying yes to that invitation to fight. And
Yeah.
if there is really something that is an issue in there, we can talk about it and resolve it later. If there's a desire I need to express, I'll express that desire. If there's control I need to let go of, I'll figure that out later. I'm like, but in that moment when he's doing that, I said, he'll probably come back and apologize later. If he doesn't, we'll go from there. But responding to that invitation to fight doesn't help anything. So no, I'm not sweeping it under the rug. I'm just not joining the fight.
Right. I mean, you sound like excited to have that option. You have that ability to say like, no, thank you. I'm not going to engage in this fight right now.
That was my biggest issue was that the fights were so stressful. I love my husband. I think he's a fantastic man, but we would get on this cycle of these vicious fights that, we were just so ugly to each other. And it was like, I don't want to be that way. I don't want him to be that way to me. And so I just was like, how do we get off this crazy wheel and actually just love each other instead of hate each other all the time?
And you feel like you had the key.
I did. It's crazy because reading the book, I feel like there are so many things in there that your first response is, well, that will never be me. That will never be my relationship. Like if I duct tape, he's just going to keep at me and keep at me and keep at me. Well, at first, he probably will. At least that was my experience. At first, he probably will. But now, I found that if I just really stuck with the skills, like he did respond. There was evidence right away. And then the more I did, just like you say, the more you practice the skills, the easier it gets. This is so true. But the more I did, the more he responded. And our relationship just changed so dramatically. Like all the evidence was there. Is like, when I do this, I get this result. That's what I want. So how do I just keep getting there? Like, I just don't want these crazy, vicious fights. And we were just talking about the other day, it's been almost a year since he has left. I don't think we've ever gone that long without a leaving episode.
Oh, and how long together?
We've been together, since 2019. It's like 6 years.
Wow.
And just been this cycle of leave and back and leave and back and leave and back. And it's been almost a year. And he hasn't even, I say he hasn't he's maybe said it a couple times, but he's never actually like gotten close. Well,
Yeah.
actually, you say that. He did actually, one day he did pack a bag and drive his truck away. And he called me and apologized and came home and told me that he should not have left. And he regretted doing that. and he's really sorry that he did that. So actually he did do it once, but he told me, he actually said to me, he said, I really appreciated that you didn't fight me on it. He said he was in a bad mood, and he said, you didn't fight me on it. He said, you didn't give me a hard time. He said, you just, I think I was like putting things away, picking up around the house, all of that. He's like, you just let me, go. And he's like, I'm really sorry. I really should not have done that. Yeah. I'll tell
Wow.
you, he never apologized for leaving before. Never.
Wow. There's there's much more peace. There's a lot more apologizing, it sounds like. And even though he was leaving, this must have been stressful. It must have been hurtful, but it sounds like you kind of kept your cool somehow.
I felt like I know our relationship was in such a good place. I know I know even if he left, I know we weren't getting divorced. I knew it wasn't heading down that road because we're just in such a different place. And I
Uh,
knew like he's a smart man. He's not going to throw away a family because he was in a bad mood. So it's like, if I just let him have his moment and let him cool down, it's all going to be fine. But I
God.
needed to just not take that on and cause a fight in the meantime.
It just sounds like a superpower that you are able to do this, to show up this way, like so full of faith. But it sounds like you're like, hey, I have all this evidence. My relationship feels strong. I have confidence in it. That's what I hear you saying. I have confidence in
Yes. Yeah. I mean, since I started practicing the skills, the first month you're still a little nervous and everything. But as it's gone on, our relationship is so strong. And that's what he talks about. He goes, I don't think we've ever been this happy. I mean, we have two toddlers. I'm going through a job change right now. And it's like in our day-to-day interactions, like when he calls me and he's like, hey, babe, what are you doing? Or, when he leaves work early and he's like, hey, I'm headed home. And he calls me so many times in a day. I'm like, you couldn't be gone anyways, because who would you talk to all day?
it. He relies on you. You guys are close. It's so sweet.
Yeah, it's
So,
like when he walks through the house and he just like grabs my butt or gives me a hug or gives me a kiss or just like the little things. Like it's actually better than when we first started our relationship.
wow. And you were saying the physical intimacy is pretty sky high right now, too.
Yes, yes. Actually, we joke about that. We're like, well, this isn't an issue for us. Yeah, and I mean, he even told me at one point, he said, well, when things were really bad between us, I really kind of had lost interest in you. And
Wow.
I was kind of happy with that at the time. I was frustrated with him too. I had two toddlers. I had enough to deal with. I didn't need that too. Great, fine. Now it's like such an important part of our relationship, and we've just like made it a priority. And it's great.
Sounds awesome. All right. And it sounds like your relationship is pretty amazing most of the time now.
Yes, very amazing. I mean, this is a marriage that I always dreamed about. I mean, I didn't have the evidence that it could be that, because even the beginning of our relationship wasn't this good. We still had arguments. We still had things. So just like he said, I didn't know we could ever be this happy. I didn't know we could ever reach this place.
It's so cool that how much he acknowledges you too. Like it sounds like he gives you all the credit for fixing the marriage.
Well, and that's part of what like keeps me going, right? Is just hearing him say like, you have done so much and this is so great. And it's like, wow, this is fantastic.
And so he's a fan of the intimacy skills.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think he knows most of them now because I actually have them written and posted on our refrigerator. So I think he knows them now. But I don't think he knows all the ins and outs of them. But he knows enough to know. And like, he won't even, he won't tell me like, okay, honey, controlling, but he'll just say something that I'm like, oh, I'm being controlling. Okay.
You see it
Yeah.
yourself. You can tell he's like your mirror. You look and you go, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So okay, well, I absolutely love this. And I'm so impressed with the transformation that you've created here. Um, from, having those big blow ups in the marriage counselor's office to like having him leave and then just call and apologize. Yeah, I say like, I'm sorry I did that. So what would you say though, what's your best tip for somebody who is where you were, where he's leaving? He, marriage counseling's a bust, or you just, and you feel hopeless, like, and, she's going to work crying and saying, my husband's leaving me. Like, what would you say to her that if she wants what you have now, where he's grabbing your butt and physical interest is a priority, and he says it's never been better than this. Like, this is the best it's ever been.
I mean, really learning the skills was the most important thing to start with, was learning the skills, and then building the tribe. Ridiculously happy wives. I wish I had joined sooner and have since recruited other people. Actually, the friend of mine who had recommended the book, she had not done the Ridiculously Happy Wives group. And after I joined, I told her, I was like, you really need to join. And she joined, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I was like, I told you. And we've since like recruited our entire moms group into like reading The Empowered Wife. So we're going to get them all on board. Um, but the skills, and actually what's funny is one of my coworkers the other day, she just started the book and she was telling me like, man, I went home and just from reading a couple chapters, like my relationship is already better. I was like, see, I told you. But it's learning the skills first is definitely like the most important thing. But then like having the right people to talk to. I had surrounded myself with so many people that were just, well, is this really what you want to put up with? Do you really want this? And, maybe it just makes sense not to do this anymore. Not people who were supportive of my marriage.
Wow.
The
Yeah.
girl who had recommended the book to me, we started meeting weekly for coffee.
Really?
And we still text each other anytime there's a situation. The one day, my stepdaughter had all-star tryouts, and I thought it was not going to be that long. Turns out it was very long. We had 2 toddlers there for 6 hours, and
Oh,
it was no end in sight. And I was losing my mind. I was texting her, like, I do not want to blow up on my husband. I know this is not his fault, but like, I'm furious right now. And she's texting me back, like, just remember the skills, remember the things you love about him. But it's so great for us to have that like support system in each other. And so that's like, I think building that community is really important.
because she was standing for you, but also standing for your husband. She's not saying like, it's his fault. Do you want to put up with this?
That was a big difference. I really needed people to be supportive of my marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool. I love that. Well, what do you think you would say to yourself if you could go back in time and tell yourself what you know now?
I would say read the book sooner, and that remember the skills are not for your marriage. They're for you. Like it's really about like taking care of yourself and putting yourself first and making yourself a happy person. Gosh, I was so unhappy. Gosh, I don't ever want to be in that place again.
You were suffering. You were
Yes.
suffering. Yeah. Well, and what about your kids? Like, how do you think this has impacted your kids that you've done all this?
Um, well, my kids are not going to see, my daughter was just barely on the cusp of like understanding when my husband left for the last time. She was not quite 3, so she didn't really get it, but she saw mommy's crying a lot. Mommy's upset. And like she would ask, where's daddy? And I think she even said up to him on the phone one day, like, well, when are you coming home? And he said, well, I'll talk to your mom. But it was like, I mean, devastating. And she was
Heartbreak.
just getting to the point of like understanding that. And I just like, I didn't want them to grow up in that situation. I didn't want them to grow up seeing this fighting, or ultimately we wind up divorced and then they're back and forth every other weekend and missing things. And so I think to them, like the biggest thing is like now to them, mommy and daddy are a happy, loving relationship, which is what I always wanted for them. If my daughter remembers, she won't for long. And my son was too little to know. So they will always just know mommy and daddy are happy and loving. And my daughter will see the way that I respond and treat my husband, and she will learn to respond and treat her husband the same way. So hopefully she doesn't go down this same path.
So you're giving her some modeling. You're like passing on to the next generation these skills that contribute to a happy marriage, happy family, and happy her, happy mama. So what about your stepdaughter? How has this impacted her?
I think for her, this feels a lot more stable now. I mean, gosh, can you imagine how terrifying that was for a little girl? Like, she actually saw her parents get divorced and split up. And then time and time again, when she would come over here, she'd have to pack and leave. And that's so stressful. And, it's always the constant threat of, is she going to be in my life? Is she not going to be in my life? Which created a tense situation in our relationship too. So in general, like, our relationship is so much better. And I think now, like, she feels so much more peaceful. Her mom has not had a successful relationship since my husband. And so we are the only example she has.
Oh, God.
So I definitely want to be an example of, happy and loving. And so I think, like, she definitely sees that now. It's definitely a different dynamic than what she saw for years.
It must feel good to be able to give her that.
Yes. I mean, that's what I hate that she went through those years of that, but at least now we can show her, okay, yes, we didn't have it figured out. We weren't right, but like, we got there. And so now she can see, like, well, things aren't always perfect, but that doesn't mean you can't make it work.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, as time goes on, I mean, love really does heal, I think. And I think you're well positioned to be that for her for the long haul because of this transformation you've made, which is incredible. In fact,
I, re- I remember my husband saying, what did he say? Like, this is so toxic for her. I'm not putting her through this anymore and all of that. That's a lot of the times the reason he would leave. And that's true. But man, a second divorce would have been too. And so now, like, she gets to see, like, it doesn't have to be toxic. And he would say, well, she sees you treating me so disrespectfully. And I don't want her to see you treating me so disrespectfully, which would lead to a lot of the fights. And so now, like, she's going to have that example of, I treat him respectfully and not disrespectfully.
yeah, yeah. And he's so accountable to you. Yeah. Yeah. And so tender. So yeah, I mean, family life it's chaotic. It's challenging, right? Sometimes you are sleep deprived. Sometimes you're tired, but, you've created something really beautiful in your family, in your blended family, which makes it an extra level of challenge, right? And I just admire it so much. In fact, I want to congratulate you and give you my Best Wife Award for this accomplishment. It's incredible, right? You have done something that a lot of people can't do. I mean, the reason the divorce rate is so high is kind of like that day you called and said, I don't want to do this anymore. It really takes it's commitment. It's courage. It's self-control. It's vulnerability. And you did all of that, Caitlin. And I'm so impressed. I can't think of anything I admire more than the transformation you've created in your family. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's been so inspiring to get to hear your story today. I just loved all the personal details that you shared with us. So relatable, and I think you probably moved a lot of people by your sharing today. So I'm so grateful.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.
For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.